Black female real estate appraiser in Texas. And so she has passed the company down to the girl who said she would never, ever, 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 ever be in real estate. She was a broker and an appraiser. And I have my undergrad degree was in IT. And when I came out, just those few years ago, because I'm only 6 or 7 years old, they had one of the tech bursts, one of the bubbles burst. And so I said, well, I'll just go and work with her for a little while. And what I realized in working with my mom for a little while was how much I enjoyed helping people. And so I went and got my master's degree in land economics and real estate from Texas A&M. And I have been a real estate professional for over 20 years, which is sometimes blows my mind to even say, because I don't feel like I've been doing anything that I should be old enough to do it for over 20 years. So let's talk about your properties, what to do with them, what will bring about the best return. Anything with investment. And your property is an investment. A house is a home, yes. It is where your family is created, yes. It is where you build memories, yes. It is where your sister takes a long match one day, lights it, and throws it in the trash can lit because she doesn't know what to do with it. Now your mama's going to kill you because y'all burn the wall and the floors. Yes, all those things. It is all of those things where you build memories as a unit. But it is also an investment. For the average person, your residence is the most expensive purchase you will ever make in your life. It is the largest bill you have every month. And so you want to make sure that you get all the bangs for all the bucks. Let's look at how we do that. So whenever we're talking about an investment, what we're most concerned about is what is our return on this? What are we going to, if we put something in, what are we going to get out? We're going to look at this from a few different perspectives. We're going to talk about cost versus value, and we're going to hone in on the difference between pecuniary value and personal value. Because if it was just an investment, then all we would care about was dollars and cents, but it's our homes as well. And that's just as important when we talk about returns. So, what is a return on investment? Return on investments measures the profit you have made or could have made on an investment. So if I decide I'm going to, I love to decide I'm going to sell something. I have the attention span of a flea. So I have all kinds of projects that I said, oh, I'm going to do this. And I'm real serious about it for a minute. So I have a heat press and I have Cricuts and I have transfer stuff and I have t-shirts and I have all of that here because one day I had decided I was going to sell shirts. I was serious about it. That's my new investment. And so I bought all of the things that were needed. There are certain things in your investment that you really can't count. And you can't count because you're never going to see that money back. We'll get into some of that later on. That Cricut money, I'll never see that back. Over time, long time, I'll probably see that back. Heat press, long time, I'll probably see that back. In business, we call those sunk costs. There are just some things that you're going to spend, you'll never get back. When you bought your house, you had to have an appraisal. You're not going to get that back. Inspection, not going to get that back. Those are just some of the costs of doing the business, right? So we don't really figure that part into it. But the materials, the t-shirts, the vinyl, the cutting boards, all of those things, were factored into my investment. So I spent like $1 on yeah, I'm making up numbers because anybody who has been outside in today's economy knows that nothing is $1 anymore.
Yes,
Not even
indeed.
air costs more than $1. So I bought all of the things to make the shirt, and it cost me $1 to get everything I needed. Well, out on the open market, shirts are going for $1.20. So we would say I made an overall revenue of $1.20, but 20 cents was my profit. So I made a 20% of the dollar. Yeah, I made a 20% return on my dollar investment, right? So that's kind of how we figured. If you are in real estate and you make a 20% return on your investment, call me because we need to do business together. Normally, we see somewhere between 5 and 8% on average. If you were to buy something and try to turn it over pretty quickly, you wouldn't expect to do more than 5 to 8% in a return. Do you see much larger returns in your house? Yes and no. And we'll talk about the yes and no. So the cost versus value. The cost for the shirt was $1. The value was $1.20. That difference is my return. Now, let's say I spent $1 on all of the things I needed to make this shirt. Shirts are going for 85 cents, which is the reason why I don't make shirts. I make them for family and friends, and that's it. Because I'm bougie and I like nice things, and they're expensive when I make them. And I could have bought them for a lot less than what it cost me to make it. So now we have this negative return. And is it okay if we have a negative return? Maybe. Let's talk about the maybe. When we talk about the value, that example I gave you was a pecuniary value. We could measure it easily in dollars and cents. We spent $1, we got back $1.20. We spent $1, we still missing money because it wasn't worth what we spent to make it. It's really easy to calculate that. Now, let's talk about when it is my daughter's 16th birthday. Now I'm going to go and spend $50 on t-shirt materials. And come on now, I'm not going to go in the store and buy a $50 t-shirt, but it's her 16th birthday. And all of a sudden, that value looks different. Why? Because it's personal now. So it has personal value to me. So I don't care about the math. The math doesn't math. It doesn't make sense. And I don't care because this makes me feel good. There is an ooey gooey value when we talk about personal value. So now we got to decide whether we're looking for a dollar and cent return or an ooey gooey return. And as quiet as it's kept, both of them are important. Both of them are important. So what are some things that can impact our return on investment? Right now, we are experiencing the rising cost of money, labor, and materials. We've been here for a minute. We've been trying to dig out of that 2020 savings for what, the last 6 years now. So in 2020, the world came to a screeching halt. Now, you think this doesn't happen? I'm telling you, it makes a difference. The world came to a screeching halt. And one of the things that happened during that time is people were afraid to make moves in real estate. And if you understand, the very basis of America's economy is the land. It is the land. If land is not transferring hands, we're having a financial problem. The banks need money to move. The banks need land to move. The builders need land to move. The bricklayers need land to move. The wood masons, it's not a wood mason. The people who cut the trees, the lumberjacks, they need wood to move. The cabinet makers, name somebody. Everybody needs properties to move, be it commercial or residential. And nothing was moving because everyone was scared. So what do when you can't get people to really shop? Think about a store that's trying to draw you in. They run a sale. So what we did was we put money on sale, which was why the interest rates were the lowest we've ever seen them in the history of interest rates. Do not look for it again. If you missed that ship, you missed it. You missed it. And so what happened during that time was money was cheap. Labor was cheap because people were afraid to have renovation work done. They weren't building anything. Everyone was afraid to move. So when you have a contractor who's trying to feed their family, the contractor that might have charged you $500 last week is now willing to take $250 just so he can go out and purchase food for his family. Those materials, but when you have a good little building period and the materials are flying off the shelves, oh, you can jack a price up. But if they're not moving, you have to drop that price all the way down. So then what happened? We reset, and you know what happens when you reset. If you swing a pendulum really far, when it comes, it must also swing really far. And so now here we are. We had begun the process of doing some work on our home, and building materials. I'm a homeschool mom. I don't know if y'all can hear that little chitter chat in the background, but the building materials that were $4 when we started budgeting, planning, pulling permits, talking to architects, getting surveyors, doing all the things. By the time we got ready to purchase materials, the materials were $32. So we went from 4 to 32 in a matter of months. Why? Because they dropped the interest rate. They made it low. There was now a run on the markets. People were out buying all the things, doing all the things because they said, look, we're stuck at home. We might as well make home nice. And so it changed the trajectory of how we dealt with our properties. So we got a little bit into this one already. So seller's market, buyer's market. What does it mean? How do we know? And what's our impact on our return? We're back to the interest rate thing. In that first part, when no one was buying because everyone was afraid, you could buy a house for a song. There was a period in the top of 2020 when home prices were just dropping because people needed to shed properties and there weren't even enough people willing to come out and look at the property. So what the government did was it dropped the prime rate, which dropped the interest rate, and all of a sudden now the market is full of buyers. Now you would say if the market's full of buyers, that means we have a buyer's market. Absolutely not. If the market is full of buyers, you have a seller's market. You have a seller's market because the sellers now have their choice of all the people out there. When money is inexpensive, more people can qualify for more money than they would normally be able to qualify for. Trying to see if any child will let him out. 1 second. One day I will have adult children. It's way off. Way off. Okay. So you have all of these buyers who can qualify for more money than they would have qualified for before. And now you have these homes where people were buying them sight unseen. You know, we had gone to the virtual working landscape. So people didn't want to live in places that had really high cost of living. They were flooding our market, and honey, they were flooding it with cash because they could sell their houses for a boatload of money in their seller's market where they were, and they came down and threw all of that cash into Houston's market. We're still correcting from that right now. So that's what it means to be in a seller's market. Money is cheap. We have a lot of buyers. Well, here we are in the great old 2026, and that market is cooling. We say it's cooling. We say it's correcting. Bubbles are not bursting. The sky is not falling. Not yet. We don't anticipate that it will. Houston has managed to, for the most part, escape a lot of the bubbles bursting and the popping and all of that stuff that happens in a lot of other areas of the country because, you know, the property taxes are not our friend, but they are our friend. They help to kind of keep you in a little more of a box than you would, you know, if they weren't so high. And so what has happened now is money is expensive. The interest rates are high. People can qualify maybe because the lenders have tightened the restrictions. So not only can people not qualify, they can't qualify for as much when they do qualify. So now you have fewer buyers in the market. Now they can go into a home and say, I don't like brown kitchens. And the seller, if they really are serious about selling, now has to say, well, let me see if we can change the color of the kitchen for you. Let me see if we can give you a credit towards putting in a new kitchen. Let's see what we can do to get this deal closed. Now, how does this impact your return? Well, in a seller's market, when there's a lot of, buyers out there, there's a lot of money out there, when people are able to just throw money in the air and hope it lands somewhere and get some property, then the seller's return is going to be really high. The buyer's return may not be so much. When there was the period around maybe 21, 22, which was really when the height of the sales prices, I never say the market value was up. The market value was not up then. The sales prices were up then. We are seeing that now. And people were buying homes that they really could not afford. And you could see that they couldn't afford it when the next year's taxes came due. And so we began to see a little bit of foreclosure activity. And so what then the banks have to do is try to salvage something, because they can't have everybody foreclosing. So, we had to be careful when you're in a seller's market. Buyers need to be careful in a seller's market that the property you purchase will indeed hold its value. Don't let the ooey gooey get you in money trouble. Don't let the ooey gooey get you in money trouble. So now how do we know what to do when? How do we know what to do when? So now we're getting to the fun stuff, the pretty stuff. Now that we finish all the money talk. So if we're getting ready to do something to our property, and we are because we've seen a model home, or we've gone to a friend's house, or we binge watched a little HGTV, and now we're trying to figure out, okay, I think I could do that at my house too. I love how that looks, that would be great. Here's some things to consider before you decide to jump right into that. The first thing is, how long will you own the property? You remember we talked about buying that heat press and buying that Cricut and making those t-shirts, and we talked about the sunk cost, right? And there are just some costs you're not going to be able to recoup in a few years. In a few months. You may not even be able to recoup them in a few years. When I buy purses, especially when right now I'm looking at this work bag, and it is so great, and it's designed by these people in Australia, and I was like, see, it was designed by women for women. They understand what I need, but it's $383. So, and I'm not really an expensive purse bag girl. So I was explaining to my husband, why this was such a good purchase, and he couldn't look at the 383 today. I said, let's figure that because this is, good quality, well made, that it's going to last me 5 years. So you can't say that it's 383. You're going to say that it's $76 a year for the next 5 years. And when you do it like that, and you say, okay, I've gotten all of my money's worth out of this, then it's a good deal. Even if it's more ooey gooey than money, as long as I can feel like I've gotten my money's worth out of it, I can make it make sense. I can make it make sense. So is this my own personal property, or is this an investment property? I watch the people who buy the storage units, and they'll go in and they'll be getting this stuff, and they'll say, oh, this is worth da-da-da, and this is worth da-da-da. And they have no intention of keeping that thing, right? So when they buy that storage unit, they're not buying the storage unit to keep that stuff. They're buying the storage unit to sell those things. So they have to make sure that they don't spend so much that they can't get enough profit, knowing that they're going to flip those things. Same thing with the homestead property and the investment property. The house I'm going to live in, I can do some outlandish things because I'm going to do that same girl math. and I'm going to say, okay, if this paint is going to last me 6 years, nobody likes it but me, but I'm going to enjoy it for the next 6 years. And according to this makes it like, $200 a year. And I feel like I'm worth $200 a year, just over $20 a month. Well worth the cost. Well, I can justify this. But if I know that my goal is to hold this thing for 3 to 4 months while I get it in good shape, and then I sell it, I'm gonna need to make decisions not based on the for me, but rather how will this be received out in the market, and how can I get the most money back out of this, because I'm not going to get to enjoy the property. So if you're not going to enjoy the fruits of your labor, don't spend money about how this makes you feel and what this makes you think and what you think you'll enjoy, because it's not for you. If it's not your homestead property, if it's just an investment property, you want to be mindful of how you make decisions about those two things. Now the nitty and the gritty. And I put on my appraiser's hat on top of my auntie wig. Now, this is the part where I don't know if you all have seen those memes. I know they pass around in appraiser circles where they say, this is how I view my house. This is how the tax assessor views my house. This is how the appraiser views my house. This is how a buyer views, those little things, and they all look real different. So let's talk about the difference in how you view changes you've made and how an appraiser, who is the only person qualified to give you a value about your house. Don't let a contractor come in there and say, if we do this, your value will do this. Not unless they are a licensed or certified real estate appraiser. Do not let a broker come and tell you, if you do this, your value will do this. Not unless they are also a licensed or certified real estate appraiser. And I told you, we are realtors. We are realtors and we are appraisers. And I let people know, I say, well, look, do you want me to give you an appraisal on this, or do you want me to give you a broker's price opinion? I said, because if I give you this price opinion, I am not using anywhere near the skill set that I would need to use in order to give you an appraisal. And I don't want you to think that just because I am an appraiser, that I'm acting like an appraiser right now. And so I want you to really know that I'm going to give you this range, and it's real realtory. It's not appraisally. It's very technical terminology. And I want them to be aware of the difference, because there is a difference. There is a difference. So we'll go into properties and they'll tell us, oh, we just got a brand new air condition. Very good. The last one was 15 years old. It was time. You don't get points for that. Would you get points dinged for not doing it? Absolutely. But do you get points for maintaining a basic, in air conditioning is not optional in Houston, Texas. In the greater Houston area, air conditioning is a necessity. So you changing out your air conditioning is what you were supposed to do, and we appreciate you doing it. You got a new roof, as you should have, because the old one, we could see the shingles falling off. It was time. It was time. You replaced the carpet, very good, because there were cigarette stains in the other one. Do you get a cookie for any of that? No. What you don't get is it held against you for not having done it. So what are the things that you can do? Those things are deferred maintenance, routine actions that just keep your asset as it was, to keep us in the static quo. So then what can we do to increase the value? What do we count as a capital improvement? What really makes the difference? So let's talk about I always use my house. So let's use my house. My house was built in 1986. Now, if I want you to think back to the golden age of the 80s, when all the walls were wood and there were mirrors and you could see yourself from every angle, and don't fool around and get the mirror that had a little flex on it, when you were fancy. We have a wet bar with the good Formica, okay? Good Formica. And so over the years, because we are appraisers, because we are realtors, we know what's happening in the market. Capital improvements are those things that you do to keep you current, not to keep you in meeting the status quo, not to keep you just functional, but to keep you current. So when we first bought the house, I say we, it was not we. When the house was first purchased, there was vinyl sheet flooring, right? Vinyl sheet flooring. We're not talking about this luxury vinyl plank we have right now. Big rolls of vinyl that they would roll out to cover the floor. Well, I don't know if y'all heard me. I was real serious when I talked about my sister lighting that match and dropping it in the trash can and setting the floor and the wall on fire. And that was in the kitchen. And so that vinyl sheet flooring had to come up. Well, they were just starting to do you you got to be of a certain age to remember this tile, but there used to be a tile where the pieces of tile would meet in the corner and make a flower. And we had powder blue and the flowers were pink. My God, why? But we did. So, and we were fancy, honey, because we pulled that vinyl up and we put that blue and pink tile down and we were current. We were on brand because it was what was happening in all of the houses. So we get a little further down and now everybody's putting in white tile, right? Okay. So blue tile's got to go. White tile comes in. We get a little further down the line and now the wood look tile is beginning to come out, but this isn't these big planks of today. These were the little small, like 2 feet by, half a foot. So we went and we had the wood look tile that did not look like wood at all. And now we've gone to those big 4 and 6 foot wood tile that no two pieces match. I mean, the artisan worked diligently to make sure that every piece has the grooves that feel like the wood, because time changes and you want to keep up with the time if you want to increase your value over time. We no longer have carpet. Why? Because in a lot of the higher end homes, they don't have carpet anymore because of allergies and, for whatever reason. But you see more rugs on solid surfaces when you go out now than you see carpeting. And so, there are things we took out. The Formica in the kitchen is still on the wet bar, but we took it out in the kitchen and there's granite in there and there's granite in on the bathroom countertops. We were pulled out a tub and put in a jetted tub. There are just things you do over time. So are you just keeping it with the status that it had originally, or are you modernizing it? Are you bringing it into this time frame with what buyers expect when they go out into the market? So thinking about making some changes, first thing, and I say these things even if you're not thinking about selling your home today. And I always advise people to think about what it would do on the market, because listen, life happens, things change, and you never know what you will need to do and how quickly you will need to do it. So even though you may do something, ooey gooey, be mindful of how that thing might play out, because you don't know what you might have to do in the next year or two. And I would hate for you to make a change today that requires a huge change, in a short amount of time in order to make something profitable for you. So think like a buyer. What do you look for when you're buying a home? Is this thing a deal breaker? My thing right now is I want a luggage closet. I want a luggage closet because it's a lot of us. And so we have a lot of luggage and I want somewhere for it to live. But if I were out and I were shopping in the market, would I walk into a house that had everything and then say, oh no, I can't buy this. It doesn't have a luggage closet. Who puts in a luggage closet? That's a personal value thing. That's absolutely not dollars and cents. And so you want to kind of think about those things. Can I do granite or do I need Carrara marble? Well, it depends. In fact, most of it depends. Where's your house? If you're in my little area of Missouri City, you can, granite's fine, Corian is fine, sandstone, fine. Any solid surface, fine. Do you need Carrara marble? Absolutely not. Are there some areas of the city where they expect imported bamboo, jade bathtubs, and things that I can't imagine needing in my home? Yes, because that's what that market requires. But if your market doesn't require all of that and you don't feel like you're going to get enough of your ooey gooey time out of it to make it worth it not to get that money back, don't do it. Don't do it. Now, if you want the jade bathtub and the imported bamboo floors and the Carrera marble, and you're like, girl, I'm going to be here for the next 30, 40 years, and I'm going to get every ounce of enjoyment out of this, by all means, and you have the wherewithal and the finances to do it, don't ever leave that part out. Then by all means, enjoy yourself, live your best life. But don't do that thinking that when I sell this, I'm going to get it all back, because you may not. You may have done too much and now you won't get it back. That's the part where it comes in handy to think like an appraiser. We look at what's happening in the homes around you. We use sales comparables in order to value your home. We use historical sales data. So even if an appraiser with the experience and the knowledge and the training and the education, even if I can see that an area is getting ready to take off, if the historical data does not reflect that upward curve, all I can use is what history has said, because we're hedging a bet that it's going to do that in the future. But history shows us how it is actually performed. So the best sales comparable in the world is a house identical to yours next door that sold this morning or yesterday. Because then we can reasonably say, if this one sold for 250,000, then this one should also sell for 250,000. Get it? So we look at what's been happening already. So quality or quantity. Sometimes we say, well, if I spend more money, then I should get better value. Maybe, maybe not. Because if it's not the quality that we expect in this area, you could spend a lot of money and not get the value back. You could spend a lot of money and end up losing the money. It's one thing to spend it and kind of break even, but it's another thing to spend it and not get any money back and to lose in that thing. You don't want to over improve. If your neighborhood is porcelain tile from big box stores and granite countertops is regular granite countertops, normal cabinet construction, don't go out there and put jade bathtubs in. Now, if your neighborhood is granite countertops, ceramic floor, don't go get some 70s shag and feel like you have arrived, because whoever comes in is going to say, oh no, this was not what I anticipated this looking like compared to the homes around. Now, if you plan on just being in there and enjoying it, and let me tell you this part that just came into my thinking. Sometimes we'll say, well, I don't need to think about an appraiser. I'm not selling my home. Are you refinancing? Do you want to pull some money out? Do you want to do a home equity loan? Depending on how much money that you're wanting to get out of your equity, they will send us out and they will ask our opinion. Is there enough equity in there? And we will look and we will say, what did they do in here? They couldn't sell this thing, because that's all the lender wants to know. If we had to sell this, could we get our money back? And if I walk in and say, well, I can tell that this house brings her a lot of joy, but it's not going to move on the market an inch, then that could impact even your ability to use the bank that you have built in your home. So what are some things that you can always do just to keep your house easy? That's some of the I don't call these deferred. They're not deferred maintenance in the same way that Clifford is going to talk about, but it is a little bit of deferred maintenance. Clean up. Just think about how you feel when you walk into a hotel room where you can tell that they have really cleaned that thing, and a hotel room where you walk in and there's hair on the desk. Now, they might have cleaned the entire room from top to bottom and missed one strand of hair. And that one strand of hair will have you running to Walmart to go and get cleaning supplies, because you already know that it's filthy in there. right? So clean up. Clean up. There's just something about a clean environment that makes you feel like it is worth more. Is there any math to it? No, it's just ooey gooey. Refresh the painting. If you can see marks in the wall, if you have broken doors, sheetrock, stained carpet, replace those things. And you don't always have to go out and replace them with the biggest, best, brightest, things that are available. You don't have to break the bank. Just get something nice enough where you could say, if this were in a house, even if you plan to replace it later on, could you survive with it in there right now? Right? The average person is wanting to be able to go in and say, I could survive right now. Now, in a year or two, I might want to change some things, but I could bring my stuff in and feel like I could make it right now. Now, let's say you're interested in making big changes, big changes. How do you really move the value needle? In the real estate appraisal form for residential properties, there is a section that talks about the condition of the property. It asks us to give condition ratings. C1 means it's brand new. C2 means it's a couple of years old, or it's an older home where they have taken it just about down to the studs and rebuilt that thing back. C3 means it's keeping up with the Joneses. Whatever's happening in the market is happening in this house. C4 means, it's a few little things we could do to make it keep up, but it functions well enough. C5 means you can live in it. You can live in it. C6 says, well, they living in here, but they probably shouldn't be, right? So that's how we determine the condition of your home. The only two rooms that it asks about in the entire condition section are kitchens and the primary bath. So you can take those side bathrooms and you could bring them into 2045. They are so fancy and up to date. But if that bathroom is out of 1952, your primary, you're going to have some problems. If you can paint and change flooring and put in new light fixtures and plumbing fixtures, sink faucets, you can do all of that stuff. And if we walk in and you have to go and try to go into the museum to figure out how to work the oven, you're going to have kitchen problems. You're going to have kitchen problems. Those are the two things that really sell houses. And then the other thing is, even though we say, we talked about, if you slap a coat of paint on the wall, that's not enough to move the needle. But if you are doing those things like trading out laminate for granite, trading out vinyl sheet vinyl or vinyl tile for like an LVP or a ceramic, those things will also change the condition number greatly. Now, this is the part where I have to meddle, and I apologize, because this is where the war begins, because people feel very attached to their ooey gooey purchases, and they want the appraiser to also be attached to their ooey gooey purchases, and we just can't be, because the historical data doesn't support it. So, solar panels, are they a worthwhile investment? On August 19th, 2026, in the greater Houston area, no, not from a value perspective. And the reason they're not from a value perspective is twofold. One, we don't have the history to support that it makes a lick of difference in value. We don't have the data to support it, because we are so oil and gas here. We are not renewable. we are not eco-friendly. We are not any of that. We are put more gas in the Hummer and let us go. That's who we still are in Houston. It's just where we are. There are other parts of the nation where if you have solar panels, it changes your value greatly. We don't live there. We don't live there. The second reason that solar panels are not as impactful is because solar panels are expensive and the technology changes day to day. Not only that, the companies tend to, right now, be a little shifty. So you might buy something and you might have a $60,000, $70,000 solar panel bill. The company will go out of business. You will still owe that bill. Nobody knows how to service it. Nobody knows what to do with it, but you got these panels and you've got this bill. You decide to sell your house. If the buyer is financing that purchase, the lender will not allow them to purchase that house unless you, the seller, pay off that solar panel bill. They will not allow another lien to sit on that house while they finance the new purchase. So that's where we stand with solar panels right now. Generators. Do we show historical data that they impact value? They do not. Am I telling you not to get solar panels or to get a generator? Of course not. If it fits your ooey gooey, it makes financial sense for you, just have all of the information. I have a generator. I love it. It has run exactly 3 hours since we got it, and most of that is the exercising that it does every week. But I feel better knowing that with the way this grid has been gridding, that if something happens, we are protected. So it's another thing where really it is, do you feel like you're going to get, the use out of it that makes it worth putting in? Swimming pools. Again, I have one. You may pay $90,000 to put in a luxury, hardscape and all those things swim pool. And I will come out and I will do your appraisal. And depending on the area, I may give it $25,000 as value. Why? Because there are people who don't want a swimming pool. It increases your insurance costs. It has all of the costs of maintenance. It's just not something where the average person says, if I can't have it, I won't buy it. Not the average person. Are there outliers? Always. So if you're going to put in a swimming pool, just make sure that you will enjoy it. The same thing for an outdoor kitchen. Now, there are some areas, let me backtrack. There are some areas in the city that do require some type of water feature, whether it's a pond, whether it's a pool, whether it's a pond, whether it's a pool, whether it's a fountain, they are expecting for there to be some type of water feature. And so in those areas, yeah, it would make sense to have it, but still don't look to get back everything you put into it. Same thing with outdoor kitchens. Unless that's expected in the area, don't expect to get back everything that you put into it. So we have this home. We want to make sure that it is the best it can be, whether it is for my pocket or for my heart. And I'm telling you, I'm at a place now. We feel like we're going to be here for at least the next 10 years. I'm doing all kind of hard stuff. I'm going to have a luggage closet. Okay. Nobody else in America will want it, but it's okay. I'm going to love my luggage closet while we're here. So what do? First thing you do is you make a plan. And you be honest, and and I want you to be specific, and do not spend what you do not have, expecting to get back money that you may not get. And so just be specific about what you intend to accomplish, whether it is financial or it is just, this is how I would like for us to be able to live here. And when you know the difference between that two, it will help you to better set a budget. It will help you to better keep your timelines. It'll help you make better decisions and not stretch yourself too far. So that's it. If you want to contact me with any questions or concerns about your own property and what might help it to keep or increase its value, my phone number is 281-414-5709. I'm in real estate. We're not allowed to have private phone numbers. My email address is nvcollins, N like Nancy, V like Victoria, Collins at KEYSRES.com, and our website is www.keysres.com. Thank y'all for putting up with me.
Thank you so much, Miss Nikki. And we're gonna speak into existence that you're gonna get that luggage closet, okay? You received that. All right. Without further ado, Ms. Nikki will be kind of sticking around until the end. So if you
Mhm.
guys have any other questions, again, please feel free to type them into the chat. Um, uh, or if you're joining us online, feel free to type them into the comment section, and we'll make sure that they get addressed at the end. So, but now we're going to go ahead and proceed, and we have Mr. Clifford Joe with GI Inspections. You're on mute.
Mic check. Can you hear me?
You're very distant, very low.
What about now?
Yes, much better.
Can you want to move the center? Maybe this will work a lot better. What about now?
Yeah, I can hear
But
you.
you know you buy the equipment and you just want it to work, but then you're like, yeah. Okay. Can you hear me now? If not, we're just gonna do this. What about now?
How is everybody? If you guys could put a thumbs up if you can hear him, okay?
No.
Just go ahead, just keep going, and then
I
we'll
can
see.
hear him, Nia.
Okay.
No, I can't. Man, I'm gonna take it off. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So let me share my screen.
Nothing's happening yet.
Okay, just waiting it out.
Still nothing yet.
Okay.
Are you on the Zoom screen?
Mm-hmm. There we go.
Okay, now it's coming up. Yep.
All righty. So, first of all, let's say, how's everybody? Glad you can attend. Today, we got some notes. I really want to focus on a couple of things in regards to home maintenance, but kind of put an emphasis on when you choose to hire someone to come in and make the repairs to your property, because I'm seeing a lot of things that, and in the last week, I've had some jobs come up, and they're almost comical. But one of them I didn't add, but I do want to talk about it when that time comes. So a little bit about me. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I'm a professional inspector, master inspector. I'm HUD inspired certified. I'm also a real estate agent, HVAC technician, project manager, level 2 drone operator. And all of these things just come about the longer you stay in the business. And I've been in the business now close to 18 years. The longer you stay in the business, the more you're going to learn about how the business operates and how you want to maneuver through this business. But as of today, we're going to focus on the maintenance of your home. So let me get out of this screen. I don't
Put it in slideshow mode.
slide.
If you go to the very top, you see
There
where
we
it
go.
says slideshow.
Mhm. So we can go to the next one. So
It's not in slide. We still see the main screen.
really, I'm looking at the whole main screen. You know, like that. What about now?
Mm-mm. Same thing.
Let me go back here. Slideshow mode. I'm there now. Give it a second. Let me see what you come up with.
Still the regular PowerPoint.
Wow. Let me see, because I'm down at the lower screen at the down at the bottom. Please. No, let's see. No, now try it. What about now?
Mm-mm. Did you go up to where it says slideshow?
Mm-hmm. Slideshow's at the bottom.
It's not in slideshow mode at all. It's still just showing the regular slides.
Right, and I'm looking at it. Well, even now, it's like when I hit slideshow here, it's opening up here on my end.
Are you using two screens?
No, only one. Go
Okay,
back.
that's the outline.
Mm-hmm.
So go up top where it says slideshow
I'm using the one at the bottom from the
from the
beginning.
beginning.
Right now,
Mm-mm.
my God, the
Well,
stars.
that's okay. We just gonna
No, we're
let it
gonna.
go from there. You just click on the next slide whenever you get to the next one.
Okay, one more time. What about now?
Nope.
I don't believe this. from the beginning, custom. Okay, we eat up time. So I really want to go into a few things. We keep going. As a homeowner, it's always best to have at least a minimum level of knowledge in maintaining your home. And we're going to go over some of the common issues in the Houston area, such as the roof, the foundation, the HVAC issues that are known to pop up more often than we expect to. A loose doorknob on a room, that's rarely used. That's little minor things when it comes to maintaining a home. General maintenance, by definition, means the regular care and preservation of the property and equipment to maintain and enhance its appearance. That's typically performed on a seasonal or as needed basis, and we'll go into that. This is just some of my contact information up front. If you guys want to get a call, have any questions, you can give me a call. But one of the things I believe in, and this is why I have it typed here, never take shortcuts. And you're going to see how that turns out when you hire people to do a job for you and they're not qualified to do that job when it comes to maintaining your home. And truth be told, I see a lot of this on flip houses, meaning houses that's been flipped, put on the market for sale, and then the new homeowner comes in and they're realizing they just inherited a boatload of issues. So common areas again, we're going to roof, foundation, plumbing, electrical, and our HVAC system. We see this all the time. I'm going to go into the roof. If your home, say this shingle you're looking at, that's actually a 20-year shingle. How do I know? I could tell by the cut of it. A 20-year shingle is going to last you in this region. It's probably going to last you about 16 years before you start seeing some moderate wear. In this case, with this picture, what I'm looking at, the lamination, not the lamination, the adhesive strip is starting to give. So what that is telling me is if a straight line wind shoots through this area, it's going to start peeling this shingle back with little or no effort. And some of those shingles are not sealed right, and then you got some of them that are sealed right, and the ones that are not sealed attached to the good ones it's going to pull all of it back. So you'll step outside, look at your roof, and when you look at your roof, you're going to realize, wow, I'm missing some of my shingles. It's because of the age of the roof, and it makes a big difference. So always keep that in mind that when you're not inspecting, but when you have a home and you have a 20-year roof, start looking at the shingles. If it's over 12 years old, start looking at it because you're going to start seeing some issues. This is another set of issues. This is one of about 10 on a roof that I was covering that this roof is failing. With any roof, at some point, it's just going to be beyond repair. And when it's beyond repair, you patching it here and there is not going to be a good look, especially if you're looking to put that home on the market at some point. It's going to be an eyesore to a potential buyer if they see it. So again, always look at your roof, especially after a high storm passed through it, like a high wind storm, a hurricane or something of that nature passed through. Look through all of your rooms too if you have an older an older roof, because you'll never know where the water will start penetrating from the roof onto the ceilings and then down to the floor. So you'll start seeing that over time. So again, always look at your roof. Here's something when it comes to roof replacements. One of the things I see quite often when I'm out there in the field, if the home has a roof that's been replaced, or you're in a home and you're going to have your roof replaced, write these items down. You need to know the shingle type that they're going to put up there. Not necessarily the brand, but the type. Is it a 30-year? Is it a 20? There's even some out there with a 40-year. I need to know about the flashings, the nails, the pipe jacks, the underlayment, the paint around the flashings and the pipe jacks, and even the ridge vent, the ridge vent. We need to know the decking, how much is going to cost per sheet of decking that they have to replace, because usually decking has to be replaced within the valleys of the roof, where the wall meets the roof, the ridge line of the roof, where the edge of the roof, around the perimeter edges of the roof, and where the pipe jacks and your furnace vents, where they penetrate the roof, where those cutouts are. Those are usually the areas on the roof that's going to start to leak first, unless you have some serious impact damage. Always ask for the removal of debris costs. The reason why you want to ask that question to any contractor, because you can't assume anything. There have been times I've gone out to look at a roof only to find out that the roofing company decided to put another roof on top of the existing roof. It's common, it's actually not common, but it's acceptable in the state of Texas. It's just not recommended. And I could tell you what usually happens is when the insurance company comes out and look, and they notice that you have a new roof on top of an existing roof, more than likely they're not going to insure the roof because it's a risk to them. Again, you have the nails that they have to drive through the original cover on down into the existing shingle and through the decking. And in most cases, those nails are not long enough to do it. So you're only reaching just a fraction of the decking. So that's not going to hold in the event of a storm. And then you want to ask for the breakdown of your cost. Know what you're paying for. If they're telling you you're paying for X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C, I want to see that being done. And it's you have great companies out there that do a great job with the contractors, but I'm seeing some that are coming through and they're just doing the bare minimum. And if you're getting your roof replaced, a good rule of thumb is half up front on the payment and the other half when it's done. That way it's fair on both sides. Nia, if you can hear me, if there are any questions, just let me know.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay. This is attic insulation. This was a house where they did the attic. This was a flip house, as a matter of fact. Insulation is in actually is non-existent. They took it out, but never added any more, and had all this trash left in there. Multiple problems when you have a house with poor insulation. So if you're in a home and you look up in your attic space and it's not at least the insulation is not at least 6 inches thick, you know your house is not sealed up properly. That's what we call a good envelope of the building. Your leaks are probably going to start at the attic. So if the insulation is not good, that's a problem. No insulation is even a bigger problem because that means your home is going to have to run. The AC is going to have to run longer in the summer, and your furnace is going to have to run longer in the winter. So this is a problem that needs to be corrected to lower your utility bill. Let's see where we are. Falling insulation. Sometimes you have what we call it's wall insulation. It does fall from time to time. It's normal, but the main cause of that insulation falling is at some point there was some moisture intrusion into the attic space. So once that moisture starts entering the attic space, now you're going to have a problem where it's not going to it's going to get behind the water will get behind the backing of the insulation and the interior side of that attic wall. And once that water gets there, that adhesive side of it is going to give and your insulation is going to start falling. And it's a common problem. If I walk into a home from the 80s, I actually go back and say the 70s on up, I see that problem a lot. So if you have a home, go look in your attic space. Look for the batt insulation like this. And if it's falling, go ahead and reattach it. Another way they do it, if the adhesive strip is gone, but the insulation hasn't fallen yet, what I've seen them do is they take nails and nail each of the studs, and then they run a string on each side of it, and they come down about a foot, do it again all the way down. And that way, what you do is you're locking that insulation in place. It's a quick man's fix, but something is better than nothing. So something to consider. This next one, this picture was taken recently. As a matter of fact, it was taken 2 days ago. This is a modular home. And what they did was that house, that area flooded at some point. After it flooded, the insulation is usually caught into this mesh wire here at the top. It got ruined, it got wet due to the flood, got washed away. The owner of the property never replaced the insulation. And you're going to see how that plays into the envelope of your home. So if you know someone who has a home that's a modular home or a mobile home, look under the home and look up at the underside of your flooring because you want to make sure your insulation is good. Poor insulation here, all of that heat and moisture from the dirt is working its way straight up. There's no blocking barrier there, and it's going to work its way through the floors. And what happens from that point is that heat is working its way inside the home. Inside the home, it's cool, but under the house, it's hot. And right where they meet, at that point, that's where you're going to have your moisture problem. And we see a lot of it. As a matter of fact, this home, this is a picture from that same home. There was so much moisture in there, the floors start coming out. And we had a lot of it. And some of this, you can't really see the darkened areas. There was a lot of mold in that house. And what I found amazing was no one had respiratory problems. I know I started feeling it once I walked in. That's why I cut my visit short. But that's something, if you see your floor starting to peel up, sometimes it's due to poor maintenance. Sometimes it's due to not following the manufacturer's warranty. They got some floors where they call it, you're not using a mop on it. It's like a dry mop or sweeper or something. And you go in old school with an old school mop and bucket, and that water starts to get between those planks. It's going to work its way down, and you're going to have a problem. It's not going to stick, and it's going to come up. In this case, it was a insulation problem that was causing this. And at some point, all of this floor decking is going to start rotting out because it's not going to stop until you correct the issue, and the issue is related to the insulation under the home. Let's see another one. This is algae growth. We see a lot of this, especially on hardy plank. That's common on the exterior walls, and it's usually on the side of the home where there is no sunlight. So periodically, as a homeowner, go out there, look at your house, and go ahead. If you can do a power wash on it, but I will tell you, if you go that route with a power wash, make sure you have someone that has experience with power washing hardy plank, because there's a thin coat of paint on hardy plank that easily gets knocked off when you go and you hit it with that power wash. When you hit that spray on there, it's just going to knock that paint off, and you'll have a bigger problem. So always remember, algae growth usually occurs on the side of the home where there is lack of sunlight. A good remedy for it is, for me, I would use a low pressure way of cleaning, attaching the cleaning solution to the garden hose and use a low pressure nozzle to spray up there and get it cleaned off. If you decide to go with a contractor who has experience with power washers, make sure they have experience on using that power washer on hardy plank siding, because you don't want to damage the hardy plank. Let's see here, hardy plank again, but the damaged siding. This home, the guy had a lot of stuff outside on the patio, and he was outdoors cooking, crawfish boils, galore. But when you take those tanks, and in this case, you have anything stored outside, and you start bumping against your siding, eventually you're gonna tear it up. So what he did inadvertently was created an entry point for pests in his home, right in this little area where the break is. So while I'm on that, always, come up with a plan when it comes to pest control for your home if you don't have one. Because in this region, one of the common problems we see is roaches. And part of that is like an issue like this, stored stuff everywhere outside, even on the inside. If you create a place for them to breed, you're giving it to them. They're going to go in there and they're going to breed, and they're going to stay until someone disrupts their living conditions. So when we look outside, look at your siding. If you see that it's falling or it's damaged, get it repaired. Because not only will you get pests inside of your home, you also stand a chance of some moisture damage too, because moisture is now breaking into that area. Here is a home. These windows, is particularly the one in the middle. I'm looking right in this area here. The streaks that are starting to form. Right there is where the seal is broken on the windows. Air is getting between those window panes. So if air is getting in between those window panes, they're going to fog up. So if you have your windows replaced, Are you in a new home, or you in a home probably less than 5 or 6 years old? Look at the documentation in regards to your windows. If you're in a new home, talk to your builder. Find out what is the warranty on your windows as far as how long will they cover them. One other thing on these windows, we don't see it often, but it needs to be there, is what we call a rating sticker, because the design pressure rating for your windows are different. They may have one design pressure rating for north and south, but the east and west side of the home may have a different design pressure rating. Though the windows look the same, they're different. And you need to know that, because you as a homeowner, say something happens to one of your windows, you need to know what was on that sticker, what was there. So when the insurance company come out, they can look at it and go, okay, we know what this window was. That's why I always tell builders, when I go out and I do an inspection and I see that they're missing, I write it in the report. Whether you're in a windstorm zone or not, I always write that in the report, because you as the homeowner, you need to know. And on top of that, if there was any damage to that window at no fault of the builder or your own, you can always reach out to the manufacturer, because within a certain window, it just depends on how long the manufacturer warranty is, they may replace that window. And if they do, you have to look at under what conditions, and what's the cost to you. And in most cases, the cost is they'll give you the window, but you have to pay for the labor to get the window installed. So it's just something to consider. Go back here. Uh, Dry rot around this window trim. One problem with this window is it's not just a screen that's missing that caused this. When you have poor drainage around the tray of your window, water will build up in, and it'll leak out at whichever way gravity is allowing it to roll. If it's pitched to the left, like here, it's pitched down, I can see the little gap here, and that's telling me that's where the water is getting in. And it's just eating away at this frame here. At some point, you have to get in front of it, because the longer you let it rot, the worse it's going to get, and you stand a chance of having termite problems in your home. And termites is another problem that we have here. Also, another issue can cause this is at the top of every window at the exterior side, you have what's called a J flashing. That flashing, if it's poorly installed or if it's missing, that water will run from the top of that window all the way down and rest in that corner, or along the whole bottom side. And if it's resting there, again, it's going to rot everything out. Then you're going to have to look at cost when it comes to making those repairs. In this case, this is a dishwasher, and this cover here, this pops on, pop up, but there is a line here, a drain line, it's a backup. And what's happening here, the water is backing up, and I turned it in toward the sink. Always look at your dishwasher. There's a hose that's connected to your dishwasher, and it runs from the dishwasher to the garbage disposal. That hose should not be resting on the floor of the vanity under the sink. It shouldn't be resting there. It should be installed in what we call a high loop, and that loop is where we have two hooks behind the sink, and then it hooks up there, and the hose goes back to the dishwasher. More than often, in this case, this is what it turned out to be. The hose was just resting on the floor, so the food that was coming from the dishwasher, all the particles, got blocked into that line. And once they got blocked in, the water didn't have anywhere to go but out to the sink. And if you have this on your dishwasher, on your sink in your home, always turn that cap to open out towards the sink. Because if it's reversed and you got to turn opening over the countertop or anything, or the island, that's where it's going to flood. And you're going to have a cleanup there. So always point it to where the opening is toward the sink. So let that water drain into the sink and not onto the countertop and onto the floor where you have a cleanup problem. Let's go down some more. Appliances, again, as a homeowner, always keep your appliances clean. In this case, a lot of grease was built up on the stove. It was also built up on the overhead exhaust fan, the filter that was there. So when the stove got fired up, the heat from that melted all of the dried, there was sticky grease on that vent screen, and it just fell onto the stove. We also had to have the smoke alarm go off. These are fire hazards. So if you're, even if you're just a renter, you're a homeowner, or if you're visiting somebody, always make sure your appliances stay clean, because what will happen is you'll prematurely set off your alarms, and sometimes they show you how this ties into your detection system, your alarm system. If these go off, you may get a call from the your alarm company, and if you don't answer, they're going to send someone out, maybe the ambulance, maybe the fire department. They're going to come out, and when they come out and they realize it's a false alarm, they're still going to charge you, and you're being charged basically because of poor maintenance. Keep not keeping your appliances clean, and you just got charged for that. I don't know what they charge, but I'm pretty sure it's more than some all-purpose cleaner and some elbow grease. So always keep these clean. This is an elevation test. Any home, all homes, whether it's slab on grade, pier and beam, crawl space type, all of them will have a issue with the foundation at some point. Some happen earlier than others, but they all will have foundation issues. There's nothing unusual about it. If you start noticing some serious movement where doors don't close like they used to, or they don't latch, windows having problems opening and closing, you see a little movement or you feel a little movement in the floor, in particular the first floor, not really the second floor. You will feel it there, but I always like to go with the first floor because usually that's where it's going to start. If it's a foundation issue, it's easier to pick up on on the second floor, but the first floor is usually where I like to start because it's small there and it just radiates out. And in this case, we were like 1.5 inches off. And always look at, and when you start feeling it, always look at your foundation. See if it needs to be, if it's intolerance and you as a homeowner, you decide to have a foundation company come out. If I have a home let's just say my home was built in 1980, and that's all the movement I have is 1.5 inches, I would not look to have any foundation work done to my home. Because once you start, if that's you just have 1.5 inch movement in over 30 some odd years, 40 some odd years, why would you want to go and start jacking around with your foundation? I'd have to be at least 2.5, 3 inches off before I would even consider it. Because once you start moving that foundation, remember, once you raise your foundation, it has to settle back into place again. And then it becomes a problem where this side is settled now north and south, but what about the room on the east side of the home? Now it's sitting below grade, and they're showing movement there. Now you got to balance that one out. So it's usually a good rule of thumb. If it's less than 1.5 inches off, leave that alone. Just deal with that one. You got to look at it like a car. After a while, it's going to show signs of wear. But if it's still functional, we're going to keep it moving. Grading. The grading. This photo was actually taken yesterday. Newly constructed home, got out there, and once the home, we had to go back and look at it because they hadn't put the sod in. But I will tell you, grading is one of the main preventions when it comes to movement of your foundation. You will get it at some point, but that grading is very important. I'll also tell you, if you don't have gutters around a home, keep them clean if you have them. Make sure the elbows are in place, the gutters around the home, make sure they're not dented or holding water in any place. They're not blocked with any type of debris or leaves or anything, because those problems will be bigger problems later. Gutters that don't drain properly, they end up doing more damage around the fascia boards and the soffits of your home, right up there where the water is stuck. If you have leaves and everything collecting in your gutters, go ahead and get it out. You want to make sure your home is sitting on what we call a pad, and that pad slopes away from the home and down into a valley, what we call a swale, and the water just drains away from the home. Well, if you are in a home where the grass is not growing, you have a lot of tree roots and things of that nature, and the water is pooling and ponding in certain areas, usually that's an indication of some type of drainage problem. And if it's not draining properly, that water is sitting under your home, it's working its way under the home. Whereas now you have expansion and contraction of the soil under your home. That expansion and contraction can later lead to foundation movement. And as a homeowner, you're thinking, how should I keep my soil? You want to keep the soil at your home consistent. Water it. I would go say water. If you're going to water it 4 times a day, maybe 15, 20 minutes. You don't have to do it an hour or so like that. Just enough to keep it consistent. When you start doing too much water into your soil, it'll expand out, but then it's got to get back to where it's going to start drying up again. And right now, we are knocking on the door of some drought conditions. And to prove to you what I'm saying, if you start calling foundation companies now to come out and look at your foundation, they're probably about 2 weeks out because they're having, so many foundations that they have to look at. So we look at something as simple as some grading, and grading can become a bigger problem if it's poor. If it's cooling up around the home, it's a poor issue. Right here, what I'm circling around here at, this is a French drain that the owner or the builder, he put the rocks in there to prevent a lot of the grass and everything from building up around that, and the water can channel away from it. And this is one of them that I chose to use. So you always want to keep this one clear to where water can drain. In this case, I know why he put the rocks there, to prevent all the grass and everything from covering it and preventing water from draining properly in the long run. But he did a good job here. I would recommend doing it. So let's go here. This is HVAC system, poor drainage. You should have your HVAC system serviced at least twice a year. I would tell any homeowner to get your HVAC system serviced at least twice a year. Here in this region in Houston, we use our ACs probably, it's not unusual to use our ACs about 10 and a half months out of the year. Whereas we may have our heaters turned on maybe 30 days, if that much, and then we don't run them long. So it's a good idea to keep your AC clean. This is the drain pan of the HVAC system that I looked at. And what's happening here is water is backing up from the secondary line. So that's telling me the primary line is drained. It's not drained, correction, blocked. If it's blocked, the water is backing up to the secondary line. You got to have someone come out and blow the main line. And sometimes I see on social media sometimes people are saying, oh, just use bleach. Bleach will eat it up, and which it will, but it'll also corrode your lines too. So if I were, in a position where I had to, if I'm doing it myself, use what is recommended to clean your lines. If they say this product is good for cleaning your AC drainage line and it's backed by HVAC companies, that's what I would use. If someone's saying just use bleach, yeah, it does work, but you're gonna damage your drain lines. And that glue that holds your drain lines together, if that bleach starts getting in there, it's gonna start eating away that glue that holds the line together. So that's something you have to consider. So again, if you're out in your home and you're having a blockage on your system, another thing you're going to notice is a safety switch that's put in on the drain pan. And your system, all of a sudden, it shuts off, and you go in the attic and you look and you see your drain pan full of water. It activated the float switch, and that float switch shuts the system off, because if it allows it to keep running and that water is not draining from that drain pan, it's going to overflow and onto the ceiling and then onto the floor. So if you have an AC system and it does not have a float switch installed, I would recommend getting one installed. And it's designed to prevent the drain pan from overflowing onto the ceiling, or even if you have it on the first floor, you don't want to come home to water all over your floor. Depending on what type of flooring you have, you're going to damage that flooring. If it sits there long enough, it's going to start warping the floors, especially with natural wood. So it's something to consider, how one device plays into another device as far as your flooring and your AC. Here's another picture. This was at a house that had a major AC problem. One, the ACs had never been changed out, serviced. And this is just poorly maintained. That's a high level of mold and mildew. So again, you want to get these serviced at least twice a year. At this point with this house, I would recommend pulling out your air ducts. If your air registers in your house end up like this, you might as well replace all of the air ducts, because all of that mold and mildew, all that stuff is inside the air ducts. And if it's inside the air ducts, it's working its way around the house. And then if you're in the house and you start noticing you're having respiratory issues, this is one of the first things I would look at is the condition of my AC system, because those spores move around the home. And if those spores are moving around the home and you're inhaling them and let's just say like myself, I have allergies real bad. I'll notice it the moment I come into contact with it. I notice there's a problem in this house. If you're living in an apartment and that apartment has what they call a water chill system, water chill systems are not really good for this region if you don't maintain them right. And I see a lot of properties where what we call all bills paid type of apartments. Those apartments that have that, usually if you look at the air registers, almost all of them look very similar to this, because that unit is not maintained right. You just can't go clean it half-half. You got to have the right. They're old and they cost to maintain. So when you see them, and you start seeing all bills paid properties, in particular Southwest Side, Galleria area, you see a lot of them. Poorly maintained, that's going to be the end result of them. So if you have respiratory problems, you might want to consider not going to those. Okay, here is I don't know if this will click or not. Let's see. No, it doesn't. Well, again, listen to your AC systems, because your AC systems can tell you a lot. Look, you start hearing unusual sounds. In this case, I could hear the blower motor rattling around in there, and it's off balance, or the motor may be going out. So if it gets to the point where you can hear this thing circling around, you can hear your motor going, it's rattling, replace the fan motor and that circular blade, replace all of it, that fan, because you don't know what damage you did to the motor if it's been running off balance for so long. And a squared away HVAC technician is going to recommend that you change both of them out, because he doesn't want to come back to have to come and change the other part out. Say you just change the motor and keep the fan, you're going to create a problem later. So that's why I was telling them, no, just go ahead and change everything out. So again, with your AC systems, in this case, you can hear it sometimes. And just because a home is new doesn't mean it's not going to have a problem. This picture was taken from a house that was probably actually almost a year later. I did the initial inspection on this home. And when I came back to do the warranty inspection, it still had the same problem. I don't know if they addressed it to the builder, but I know it was in my report and it was still there. Now they're knocking on the door of their warranty and they have to have it repaired. So what if they didn't have the warranty inspection done and presented to the builder again? They will probably been on the hook for the fee it was going to cost to replace that blower motor. So there's little things like that we have to, bear in mind. And again, look at the system as a car. All parts will go at some point. It's just a matter of time, and it really involves around how much usage you get out of it. Using it for long periods of time, but every day, yeah, at some point you're gonna have some problems. So let's see. This was an older home. If your house is older, even if it's not, look at your air ducts. If your air ducts are starting to look like this, whether in this case the gray plastic coating, the final coating, if that's all peeled back and I can look at all my insulation, yeah, it's probably time to change these out, because what's happening now is you basically cooling the attic. You're not cooling the home, because you have cold air that's breaking through this insulation. And that cool air entering to the attic space with the hot air, you're going to create you're gonna create a moisture problem, and you're gonna create low efficiency results in your home. You're not getting the maximum efficiency out of your system because you're losing energy here. So it's always a good idea when you get your AC service, have them look at your air ducts too, because your air ducts play an important role into maintaining a good home. This is uh this is a do-it-yourself job. I always say hire the professionals. This home was maybe 3 years old. So if you have a home, in this case, this was an in-law suite. The in-law suite, the AC for the in-law suite went out. So instead of putting a new condenser in place, the homeowner decided to just terminate that line, which was the wrong thing to do because you have to bear in mind the original the AC for the main part of the house was, I think it was a 3.5 ton, but having an in-law suite, you needed another 2 tons, and you just took that away. So those 2 tons makes a big difference in your comfort zone. So yeah, it's cooling, but if I'm not mistaken, that house was off about 3 degrees when I did my ambient air test. That's a lot because that's 3 degrees away from what we consider comfortable in our home, and they were not there. And just because someone took a shortcut, leaving the original unit in place and terminating this line and rerunning the ducts, two problems you just created. One is going to create a moisture problem later because the air movement is not the same. It's not what it should be to keep the air continuously moving throughout the house in a timely manner. And the unit is now undersized for the amount of space it's designed to cool at this point. By adding, I think they added that's another what I think about 200 square feet or something of that nature for that suite. If not a little bit more. Actually, it was a little bit more than that. Correction, it was like kitchen. Yeah, actually, it was a little bit more than that. It was close to 600 square feet. He was off, but still, we had a big problem and made a big mistake. So you had to go back and make that correction. And making the correction is by adding the condenser and rerouting the air ducts to its original position. Here, water heater problem. I don't even know where to start. Every time I look at it, one, this line here, this we're draining out. It's draining out to the side, but you can't. If you look here, this line runs across here, but then it goes up here. So nothing but water is resting here. So eventually, the water that comes out when this valve opens, it's just going to collect down in this part of the PVC line. Big issue. Up here, the insulation tape used is not good. I'm looking at the bottom here. I don't have a sediment trap installed, so that's another issue. The drain pan does not drain out away from the home, and the water heater, being a gas water heater, is not sitting on the pedestal. So we have multiple issues here. So sometimes we think we're doing a good thing, and we're doing more damage than good. So always leave it to the professionals. If it's something that's out of your scope, out of your, as they say, out of my pay grade, leave it alone. Again, water heaters, in this case, and you should listen to your water heater. Sometimes if you hear this little unusual knocking sound, when you're, especially on a gas water heater, if you hear that knocking sound, there's a lot of, there's probably an issue where the unit has, it may be damaged, may have a high mineral count, high mineral deposits collecting on the inside, which is why you want to get it drained. You want to get your water heater drained at least once a year. If you get the water heater drained once a year, you wash all of that stuff out of there, minerals and everything, mineral deposits out. What I do notice is if you have a water heater, if it's brand new, water heater designed 10 to 12 years average, you can probably get about 5 or 7 more years out of your water heater if you drain it at least once a year. I've seen where they've gone the distance, all because they decided to take care of it. And in this case, this water heater, and this water heater is not old. One of the things I noticed on this water heater, and this is going to probably be a problem later, one, the water heater was not that old. Two, all the warranty papers are still here in this little pocket. They never turned the warranty papers in. So if it was a defect from the manufacturer, you're probably not going to be covered because you have a certain amount of time to get these papers turned in. So anytime you purchase an appliance, a washer, dryer, refrigerator, microwave, any appliance, even your HVAC system, fill those warranty papers out and turn them in. You'll be surprised at how much of a hassle you can avoid if you take the time and turn those items in. But like we said, in this case, go and listen to your water heater, or sometimes you may hear this unusual knocking sound, especially if it's in the attic, or you hear it even better if it's on the main floor. You start hearing that knocking sound, that's usually an indication your water heater is probably about to start going out. You could flush it at this point, but you'll get it cleaned out, but you may start hearing it again. But you probably can stretch it a little bit further if you get it cleaned out. But just know you have a lot of minerals collecting inside the base of that water heater. So it's always a good idea to keep them clean. Get it flushed at least once a year. We look at our clothes washer connection. Sometimes this is actually, look at your clothes washer connection in your home. If you start seeing something like this, dry rot and water stains at the bottom down here, it's not always that drain line. A lot of times it's the connections, they're leaking. They're leaking where the hose, plumbing lines are connected to the spigot behind the wall. And once they start leaking, you almost never know it until you start seeing signs like, rotted, peeling paint, or you start seeing these little water lines that's connecting behind the wall. And it's not a big leak. It's usually just a leak that's it's pressured, but it's not big. But it's going to become a bigger issue over time if you ignore it. Now, and like in this case, all of this has to be cut out. And to properly repair it, turn the water off to the home, drain the lines, cut all of this out, and then make the replacements as needed. Pressurize the line before you connect anything back to them as far as the washer connections. And if there are no leaks, then you go back and you just open all your valves and go back as normal. But usually this was an older home. As a matter of fact, this home was Bel Air area. Everything is it's like a car. Everything starts to give at some point, and it's common. Just go ahead and replace them as needed. And we go here. Termites. Again, that becomes what is your plan for pest control? Come up with a good plan, even if it's you having to do it yourself. Come up with a good plan to treat your home for pests. Some people have pest control come out. I don't know if they come out monthly, bi-weekly, or whatever. Some people have it just at one time for their treatment. Like this home, the home had no termites, but they did the damage to the fence post. So thank God they hadn't made it into the house yet. But if the conditions are right, they will. So these are little things you have to keep in mind. As a matter of fact, walk around your home. Look at the foundation around your home. If you see a mud tube around the perimeter of your foundation, you walk and you see this little mud tube going up, it may be termites, maybe not. If it's dirt, still kick it. See what comes out. It's only going to be fire ants or termites. It's up to you. And you have to look because termites, they're white in color and they're very small. So you'd have to just fix your eyes on them real close and you'll see them. They're there. So we're going to look at electrical here. Again, leave it to the professionals because the homeowner had the electrician, I don't know who he had do it, but that GFCI should run independently. And what he did was he tied the light fixture to the GFCI. So when you trip that GFCI, the light goes off. That's not how that works. So you have a GFCI, it should run independently. It shouldn't be tied to any other fixtures. And this is what we ended up with. So I always say, in the event that you don't know what you're doing, leave it to the professionals. Let those guys do it. Let it be their issue. Here, this is again when it comes to doing work on your home, and this can happen anywhere. This can, as a matter of fact, this home was a little over $1 million, but it was a flip. that light fixture was supposed to be hanging over the closet inside that home. And the wife was the one who mentioned that I noticed this closet doesn't have a light fixture, and just under the assumption maybe the builder didn't put one in. But there it was resting on the attic floor. And if you look, you got a blue line for cold water, hot line, red line for hot water, and electrical wires all sitting there together. What happens if one of those lines break? PEX lines usually don't, but what happens if it leaks at the connection? They will leak. Water and electricity don't mix, so it was a major problem. What that told me was a couple of things. What looking at this told me, the more than likely the contractor who did this was not a licensed electrician. He was somebody who may have known the fundamentals of electrical work, but he wasn't proficient at it. And that was the end result, because a licensed electrician wouldn't do a job this way, because he knows what he has on the line. If he does it wrong, he can lose his license, or he can be sued. So that's why these are general telltale signs that a amateur did this. So, and with this being said, again, when you decide, if you're a homeowner and you decide to have some electrical work done to your house, always ask for the credentials, the licenses, the insurance. I need to see that, and then your scope of work. What is the scope of work going to pertain to when it comes to your home? Get all of that in writing before you start letting someone do the work in your house, because the amateur guy that does the work, he may have it working, but he may have it installed wrong. In this case, it's a fire hazard waiting to happen, and that's what we don't want. So we're going to look again. This was actually a house that was flipped. And this again, if you are in the market to become a homeowner, you're looking to purchase, watch what you purchase, because right here, if you can see this cursor moving, that's the shower valve right there. And that's one of the water control valves right here. So look what a switch is. So we're going to touch the shower. We're going to touch the light switch with a wet hand. So I don't know who was thinking of this. So we have to be careful at what we're doing, who we're hiring to do the job. It may look unassuming, or we may not know what we're looking at the time, but at some point it'll start making sense. Like, well, what are we doing here? This is not going to work. And that the electrician, whoever did this, they should have known better. They should have known this is a electrocution waiting to happen. So you have to be mindful of what you're doing. Be mindful who you hire to do jobs around your home. And that was pretty much it. So in conclusion, we pretty much addressed the definition of maintenance, common areas, don't do it yourself job, and these warranties, because all of this is important to you as a homeowner when it comes to general maintenance of your home. And don't be afraid to ask questions if it doesn't make sense to you, because staying quiet about the issues that may concern you may be the difference between something being done the right way or the wrong way. Because someone who's doing it the right way, they're going to take the time out and explain it to you. And I'll go over a few other items that that took place recently. I was over off of near McGregor Way over there, between McGregor and McGregor Park. Well, actually between Scott and McGregor Park, up in that area. A home that was custom built, again, multi-million-dollar home. The guest house, the pool area, they put a mini split system. I don't know what made them install the system on the roof, and it's pitched to the side. What's going to happen when some high winds come through there? It's going to blow it off. When you're spending that kind of money, or any dollar for that matter, those are items you shouldn't see. As a matter of fact, he ran the Freon lines through the duct vent for the fan for the bathroom that was out there at the pool house. So again, you were wrong there too. When all he had to do was mount the unit on the side of the home, even if you wanted to keep it off the ground, just mount it high and then run it through the wall, and you'd have been done with it. But he took a shortcut with it. And again, to the average person, you see something that doesn't look right, and hey, this is a problem. Another issue I had, I went out to a home. A buddy of mine called me and asked me to look at it. Went out to the home northwest Houston. House had been flipped, and when they flipped the home, the young lady who purchased the house noticed that there was a smell in the kitchen. They couldn't figure out where that odor was coming from. It was later determined. I went and I said, well, it's not coming from the dishwasher. You don't have any breaks in the foundation where water is penetrating, and you don't have any leaks in the sink area. So again, where's it coming from? Then we stopped, and I'm just looking at the floor that had been peeled up, and I realized that whoever did the flooring, instead of laying down just a self-leveling epoxy, they knew it was a leak somewhere, and they covered a leak under the sink. That's where we found it at. It was a leak there, but it was leaking under the floor. So what we did was we pulled everything back. We looked, we traced it back to under the kitchen sink. We had to pull the flooring out. That's under the cabinet. That's where we saw where the water was coming from. But the flipper, instead of making that repair, he added a layer of plastic first. Then he put the self-leveling epoxy. Then he put the flooring down. And them little cracks and crevices, water start penetrating. That water is collecting there, and on top of that, the homeowner, she's cleaning the floor. Now you have water coming from the bottom, and you got water coming from the top. Now you got mildew and mold, and it's got the kitchen smelling kind of foul. But it was determined that issue, and the lady later admitted she knew there were a lot of problems with the house, but she didn't think it would be that bad. Unfortunately, that cost her some money, cost her some thousands, because she had to pull up all the flooring inside the kitchen area, and she decided to go to the living room too. But you had to make that repair first. So again, make sure your people who you hire to do a job, make sure they're qualified to do that job, because what you don't want is an issue later when somebody decides, oh, I could do this for you. I can do this for you for far less. And that's great. But can you do it for far less and show me the credentials that I need before I let you get onto my property? Those are the things that I would be asking. So little things, when it comes to maintenance, yeah, there are some issues that can come up. Some of those that come up, you can do them yourself. You can make those repairs yourself. But if you decide to bring someone on to do that work for you, then no, and honestly, I'll say this from experience, from what I see, I can focus on roofs. Um, I had someone call me about a roof. They got some astronomical quote, and I couldn't understand where did they get that number. I do a lot of inspections on roofs, and I know basically based on the year, the location, and the dollar amount, you're not in the windstorm zone, so this was just a regular roof. But for the number of squares on that roof, she probably, would have came out at roughly about 14,000, something like maybe 15,000. Here in Houston, you can get a roof put on at a fairly decent price because there are so many roofing companies out here. And she just had a question, so I referred her to 3 or 4 guys that I knew. She only called one, and actually he did it for less. And she asked me, how did I know him? And I say, I know this guy because I inspect a lot of his work. And he knows that I'm not going to cut corners with him. We have a good working relationship in that sense. But it was, how did you go from almost 30,000 to 12? That's actually what they ended up paying to get another roof. Quality material, everything was in writing, and this person had the credentials in order. So those are the things you need to look for. I don't always go because when referring someone out, just because that's a friend, or even as you as a neighbor, they may refer someone to you. It worked great for them, but will it work great for you? You don't know. That's why it's always good to do your homework. Check that person out. Make sure they're able to do what they say they can do. So at this point, I am pretty much done. Again, this is my contact information. This is me. If you have any questions, I'm here. So Nia, at this point, you can take over.
Look at you using AI.
Yeah. You like it?
That's nice.
Just out there messing around.
Cool beans.
I
All
am
right.
so sorry. I don't know why I could not lock in.
Hmm?
I couldn't lock in without getting my screen going. As a matter of fact, it's still turning in. I don't know why it's doing
Well, that's all right. I started choking earlier today and couldn't get my words out, so that's all right. I don't see anything in the chat, and I'm still looking online here. I wanted to go back to one of the slides that you showed
that.
for the drain line in the AC, where the drain pan
Mm-hmm.
was overflowing, and you said to talk about flush. How how simple is it to flush out that line, and what is that causes that line to get clogged up in the first place?
Well, I'll start with the second question first. Usually, what causes that line to back up is that drain line from the AC is usually tied to one of the sinks. The primary line is usually tied to one of the sinks in the home. Now, here's the crazy part, but it's true. In most cases, it's the sink that the woman uses because of the hair. A lot of hair you tends to get blocked down into that drain line. So once it's blocked, now the water that needs to come off of that AC can't because that sink drains slowly because all the hair and everything in it. You see where I'm going? So
Gotcha.
you have to blow that line. Another way of doing it, and this is old school, depending on the age of the house, unscrew the diverter cap. You know how you have that stop valve linkage and pull it up and hose the water?
Mm-hmm.
Push it down and unscrew the cap. And you can look down in there and you can see sometimes you see all the little hair particles and everything collecting down in there. And one day I did it. I took a coat hanger and I took one end of it and I just made a small hook on it and I just stuck it down in there and caught onto all the Jennifer hair and everything, twisted it and pulled up all kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And that I don't recommend doing it if you don't know what you're doing because you'll get it hooked. But that's what I did, and it wasn't interfering with the AC, but it was interfering with the water drainage. So that's why, and I
Gotcha.
did it on the tub too.
Gotcha.
So, those are things I look at, when I see it.
And then the hot water heater, you said to recommend flushing it. How easy is it to flush? What do you need to do to flush your hot water heater?
One, turn off the water. Turn off the water at the main valve, and at the top you can add a cleaner tool. You can add the solution tool. You can disconnect that line, but there's an opening at the top. You can open from the water heater. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna go back to this in a second, but here's another way you can tell if your water heater is going bad. And this I didn't speak on it on the electrical side. If your water heater is not heating up like it should, and you have an electric water heater, it's usually one of the heating elements that went out. I meant to touch on that while it was on my mind, because on your a tank, not a tankless electric water heater, if you look at it from the outside, it has two panels, one top, one bottom, and it's usually one of them that went out. So just wanted to touch bases on that. But yeah, on the water heater, you can disconnect the line, turn the water off, disconnect the line, and pour the solution down in there. I always say something like that, get a plumber to do it because you have to have the right wrenches to get that on. And then, I would say if you break that line, you got to realize that water is pressurized. So if you do it the wrong way, you're gonna have some leaks.
Mess them up.
Yeah. So I was like, no, don't do that one.
Okay. I don't see anything else. What's the one thing that somebody should know when they're starting to do some work with a contractor? I mean, would you recommend that they get an inspection and stuff done so that they'll know in
I
advance of, you know,
Yeah, and actually I do a lot of these now. They're coming up more and more. Um, you go out and like say the roof. I would tell like say the roof. Let the contractor know, hey, I want you to meet my inspector because this is the person that's going to be coming through doing the inspection, like doing the demo. I'm doing a 203K now. I'll give you an example of it. You got to go out there and do the inspection at the demo. And once they get everything hauled away, now they're doing all the repairs that they need. And then we'll go look at it again. Then I got to go back when they finish everything. That's what I would be doing if I was a homeowner. I would tell the contractor, hey, I'm going to have my inspector come out. And my inspector, after we do the demo, this is what he's going to be looking for. And then I know what I'm looking for. I want to make sure that, one, are there any other hidden defects that we need to know about? Because you're not going to see it until the walls are removed. In this case, this was a bathroom that's being remodeled. We won't know. If there's anything else that's there, you can explain it to the homeowner, and that way the homeowner is not feeling like the contractor is trying to take advantage of it when that price goes up, because sometimes it does. And I get another example of that is a roof. Say we go out and we look at a roof, it's dated, and they strip that roof off, and then next thing you know, we're looking that we got some dry rot on multiple decking panels. So now I got to pull that one up, this one up, and this one up on multiple sides of the home. That just increased the price on replacing your roof. So now you have to go back and, I would tell anybody, make sure you get the pictures. He's showing it to you. He's showing you where this issue is, this issue, and this one. And a good contractor is going to tell you, hey, you need to pull all of this out because this is going to be an issue later. I've seen it where the issues do get pointed out to the homeowner, and because of the cost of doing it, the homeowner says, "No, I'm not going to do that." Then the insurance company go out, walk that same roof, or look for depressions in the roof, and he notices it, and then he makes a point to point out, "Hey, this roof is soft over here. What happened? I thought we had the roof replaced." "Oh, we did." "Well, what happened here?" "We didn't replace the decking." Now the insurance company is going to make note of that. Another thing they will make note of, and it happens with your AC. When you have a problem with your AC, and this is everybody that's listening, please change your filters. Make sure they are up to par. Change your filters as needed, because when the AC company come out, that's one of the first things they're gonna ask you. When was the last time you changed your filter? And if they see this filter is all caked up, it hasn't been changed in Lord knows how long, you just kind of like voided your warranty if something else was to happen. Because if it backs up too far, let's just say you got a dirty filter, you turn your furnace on, all of that heat is backing up into the air ducts. And while they're backing up into the air ducts, it's going to reach that blower, the ID blower area in that chamber, the burn chamber. It's going to create a flash point. And it's going to trip the unit. It's probably going to burn up all the wiring inside. And what's going to happen when they come out and look at it, they see the problem. Okay, the problem starts here because the good AC guys are going to start in those areas. They're going to start with the filter. They're going to start looking at what happened, the whole nine, and they're going to ask you some questions. They're going to probably be real nonchalant when they ask you, but they got they have a job to do. You got a job to do. You know what I mean? So it's something to consider.
Okay, here's a question. I
Okay.
live in a condo. Due to some water at the floor level, I believe there is a grade level problem when there are high winds. How do I word this to the HOA to get this addressed?
Are you living in the well, actually, how old is the condo?
The condo is built in the 70s.
Okay.
Before, like in the 75
Mm-hmm.
year.
They probably had some is it what side of town is it on? Because most of them might
Northwest.
be northwest. Okay. Um, any trees and everything around it?
No,
Exterior side, no trees, nothing. Yeah, I would is it the unit above you that's leaking?
no, it's a condo, so it's all,
One floor?
yeah, was two floors, but it's, the stairs on the inside, in other words.
Okay. And the water is coming in, the condensation is coming in on your side. How old is your roof?
They just had the roofs done about 3 years ago.
Okay, well the roof is good and hopefully they flashed it properly. So you think it may be the AC issue?
No, I don't think it's the AC. I'm thinking that it's due with, what is that 1.5 grade level that you were talking about?
The pitch, I mean the settlement, because when you're doing
Right.
rough, you're doing your points around the foundation,
Right.
and when you look outside at the found, you're on the first floor, right?
Well, there's only one.
One floor.
I own the condo, so the bedroom's upstairs and the living room's downstairs. So
Okay. Okay. And outside, where you suspect that look at your foundation outside. See if you can see it, or is it settled below grade? You see what I mean?
right, I understand what you're saying.
Hmm.
What I want to know is how can I get them, because I don't know what I'm looking at. So
Um,
I want them to
Address it.
get them to come out and do an inspection or get a professional there to look at it.
okay. I would is it well? Let me ask. The foundation is part of the homeowners association responsibility.
Correct.
If it is, I would ask them in writing first. I would do writing, email, and verbal. When can you get someone to come out and look at my foundation, and ask them if you did it, would they cover the cost of it?
Okay.
So you got water that's coming in on your ground level
Right.
when it
So
rains.
if there's a high wind in the rain, it's like I could feel the water
Let
when
me
I
ask you
walk on the
something else.
floor.
Is it near a window?
No.
Okay, just wanted to verify. Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
like a wall where and I'm thinking that, maybe they don't keep the what do you call it, the hedges and plants and stuff and all that stuff watered
Mhm.
regularly, and I'm thinking it's causing the foundation uh shift or
Shift.
whatever.
I
Yeah.
take you. Neil can
But I
give you
want
my.
to word it in such a way because they don't think you know what you're talking about, and they
Oh,
not just come out, you know what I'm saying, and do any kind of checking unless you got some proof or know how to talk to them, in other words.
can you do something for me? Neil can give you my email address, and it was there as well. Take a
Yeah.
picture. Take multiple pictures of the area where the water is coming in on the inside,
Uh-huh.
and then take multiple pictures on the outside where that water is coming in at, and along at that foundation level too, and send them to me, and we start looking at it from there.
Okay.
And I can give you my honest opinion of what I think it may be.
All right.
So I'll send out a copy. I'll be sending out a copy of this recording and your maintenance book that I'm not. Did you mention your maintenance book? I didn't hear you say
Everybody
anything
get,
about it.
no,
Okay.
everybody gets it. Everybody get that maintenance book.
Okay, so there's a maintenance book that Cliff has that he asked me to distribute to the participants that I'm going to send out and with their contact information, and his name will be included on the email, so you'll see his email address so that you can respond to him from there. Ms. Nikki, is there anything else that you wanted to add, or oh, you know what? There was a question that I did have for you.
Mhm.
What is it that people need to know as it relates to their property taxes when they are making improvements, not just maintenance type stuff, but when they're making capital improvements?
At the tax side, I wouldn't know, but I know on the appraisal side, you're probably
Yeah, that
you're probably going
yeah.
to have money. You may have to pay extra because here's something that I see, and it has to be updated timely because some people make the improvements under the original structure, so you don't always see it, and they do it without pulling the permits. So it's no record of what took place. You know what I mean? We see that part, and it doesn't get updated like through HCAD or
Mhm.
sources to look at, like the permits department too, because they didn't pull a permit. So and usually when from the inspector side, when it's not permitted, and if I see the work, and usually you can look at the work and tell that's kind of poor at best. So what happened here, and then I will recommend, if I suspect that the work was done, recommend asking for the permit, recommend asking for the company that did the work, asking for any documentation related to that work. And an example of that is I did a house that had foundation work done to it, major foundation work, and it was a flip, and I saw no permit on site. I saw no engineer drawings on site, so I don't know how many piers you put in, and I don't know where you put them. So things of that nature, the repairs are improvement to the property. So Nikki would know more on that side of on the appraisal side.
So from a tax perspective, the big secret no one tells you is that the taxing authorities only pass through your property on a schedule. So it may be 5, 6 years, even though they have raised your property taxes every year that they have seen your property. That's number one. The second thing is they only see your property from the exterior, right? Because they don't come in. In fact, you don't even know when they have or haven't done their tax valuation inspection. So if you are a homeowner and you have made changes to your property, and sometimes even with permitting, because they don't always talk to each other, those two things happen in very different offices. It is almost an impossibility unless you go tell the taxing authority that some improvements were done.
Like, hey, raise my taxes. I got
correct. Correct. We do, our company also does renovations, and we have done additions, pulled permits, pulled everything. The taxing authority, it just wasn't in the cycle for them to come by. And they don't come, when they finally drive by and they see that there's another 700-800 square feet of house on the house, they don't knock on the door and ask you, well, when did this get done? Because they don't want to alert you to the fact that they've been raising your property taxes for years and they haven't seen your property, right? So it's really more of a, so there are three answers. Homeowner, unless you want them to increase your taxes, if you did everything right, go enjoy whatever it is that you've done. If you're getting ready to sell a property, then you want to make sure that everything was done properly, not from a taxation perspective, but from a liability in selling it, especially if, so you would expect, if you were represented by an agent, that the agent would make sure that all those things were decent and in order. And if you are a buyer and you see where they've done some things to improve the property, adding square footage, changing, you just want to make sure that things were done well enough to make sure you can insure that property. Because sometimes people will make changes, they will do work, the work is either not permitted or the permits were never closed. And then something will happen to that property and the insurance company will say it's that unpermitted stuff, or it's the stuff that wasn't closed and, was never inspected to the full. And that's why blah, 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 and we won't pay it out. So it all depends on, real estate, it depends.
So no, that's the legal answer. It depends.
It depends. I mean, we went and did an appraisal, and this guy was doing a refinance, and he was very concerned because he had added a bathroom. The work was gorgeous. He had added a bathroom and a bedroom to the property. His value substantially changed. And his question was, who all gets a copy of this report? And I said, sir, you and the lender. And that's all he wanted to know. He wanted to make sure that his taxing authority was not saying, it's not my report, it's your report. What you do with it is completely up to you.
I have a question.
Go ahead,
And
Cliff.
say the work was already done. Like you say, it was beautiful work. Are you, and you can't pay out on it, but if they had the right people come through and do the inspection, or like, I'll give you an example. Did a house had a foundation repair? Guy did excellent work on it. He worked for a foundation company. but he didn't have any plans. He didn't have any documentation showing that he did the work. Is there any way for in something like that you can have an engineer come out and look at it, or the right person come out, of course, electrician? If it was framed out, you have a framing inspector come out from the city, look at it, and look at the structural side of it. Like you have city inspectors come out and just do plumbing. Some of them come out and do just electrical, and some of them may come out and just do the framing. Would it be in your best interest to have them come out and make a report of what's there since it was done unpermitted, and make
We
it?
have we have recommended there have been times when we've gone out and we've done appraisals.
Mhm.
And because of the area, and that also makes a difference too, the jurisdiction and
Mhm.
what their requirements are for work to be done. And we knew in this area they were serious about work being permitted or not permitted. And I asked them, was this permitted? And I knew when I asked that it wasn't permitted because I know what to look for. I know an inspector would never let you build living quarters before a garage and the garage isn't finished, because that means there's no way for you to fireproof it.
Right.
So there were some things that I knew, and I said, and I told them, I said, so I can't count this as space, right? I can't legally count this as finished space, even though you have finished it beautifully. I said, this is what you do. Go pull the permits now. Finish the things they tell you to finish now. You can count it after that. So you can go in later and do some things, and you can get when we did the build on top of we did a build on top of our garage and connected it it was a detached garage. We connected the second floor to the main part of the house, and we just had to have a civil engineer come out and certify that the foundation of the garage could handle what we were building on top.
Okay.
There are always people, if they're able to come in and they're willing to put their stamp and their seal on it, that's always a little scarier, because nobody wants to assign, once you assign your expertise to it, you've also taken on that liability.
Makes sense. All righty. I think we are almost 20 minutes over, you guys. So I think we're just going to go ahead and wrap this up. Um, let's see. We'll be back again in August, September, October, the third Wednesday in October. If you guys want to come back, if you have more questions, need some additional information, then please feel free to join us. On behalf of the collaboration, on behalf of Neighborhood Recovery, want to thank y'all for joining us this afternoon. Let's see, something else just popped up in here. Yes. Okay. I will make sure, Miss Kenny, that information gets sent out to you. But on behalf of all of us, we want to thank you all for showing up this afternoon. We hope you found the information to be beneficial. If you guys have neighbors, family members, or otherwise that could also benefit from this information, then please share it. Again, I will be sending out a link of the recording, and then the link to our YouTube channel to go back and watch other presentations that we've had as well. And any references, any contact resources or what have you that were mentioned, I will also make sure that they are all included, as well as our calendar for the remainder of the month, so that you are able to participate and come to future events. So thank you, Cliff, for saving me at the last minute.
No,
We had an issue with with someone else that I had scheduled for today. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Miss Nikki. Tell your kids thank you for allowing us to pull you away from their lesson plan for the day. I'm pretty sure they didn't mind taking a break. But thank y'all very much. We hope you all have a wonderful remainder of your day. You all take care of yourselves. You all stay safe, and we will see y'all next time. Thank you.